Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram.
Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram.
Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga.
Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jaya Nitai Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse number 54. Arjuna Uvacha Sthita Pragyasya ka bhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthitadhi kim prabhasheta Kimasita vrajeta kim. The meaning of this verse is, Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? This verse is a question by Arjuna. As you are aware, Bhagavad Gita is essentially a dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna asks questions and Krishna replies. And in the course of replying to Arjuna, Krishna instructs us in the essential wisdom of the Vedic literature. So here Arjuna's question is regarding the symptoms of a person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, who is situated fully in Krishna consciousness. So 4 things Arjuna asks. How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Now, Srila Prabhupada explains what's the meaning of this. We can understand Arjuna's question being asked as symptoms of a person who is in Krishna consciousness. But why does he specifically say, how does he speak, what is his language, how does he sit, how does he walk? Srila Prabhupada explains, just like there are symptoms of a person in terms of his particular situation. So, similarly, a person in Krishna consciousness has a particular type of symptoms. How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he think? How does he feel? And Srila Prabhupada gives further examples. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is called a rich man. Or a diseased man has got symptoms by which it is known that he has got a specific disease. Or a learned man has got symptoms by which we can understand he is a learned person. Similarly, a person in Krishna consciousness has specific symptoms in his various dealings. Now, what are those specific symptoms can be known from the Bhagavad Gita in this particular section of the 2nd chapter, the last part of the 2nd chapter, verses 54 to 72. These verses describe this particular aspect of the symptoms of a person in Krishna consciousness. Now, the immediate symptom of a person in Krishna consciousness is that he speaks only of Krishna and matters relating to Krishna. That is the nature of the speech of a person situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. Essential speech is speech that is concerning Krishna, because Krishna is the essence of everything in existence. Therefore, essential speech is speech concerning Krishna. In fact, anything not concerning Krishna or anything not relating to Krishna is called Maya. Maya means that which is not. Maya, that which is not. So, if we see something without its relationship with Krishna, such a vision is due to illusion or due to ignorance or due to a misconception we have. Therefore, the essential symptoms will be described in the following verses. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 55th verse. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Sita Prajnas Tadochyate. The meaning of this verse is, the blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, here Krishna begins his reply to Arjuna's question. The very first symptom Krishna describes of a person in Krishna consciousness. He gives up all varieties of sense gratification which arise due to mental concoction. Just like we can easily understand, everyone makes their own plan for enjoyment in this world. So, that plan making and accordingly arranging things and working it out and trying to get some enjoyment for the senses. Essentially, material enjoyment means senses in contact with sense objects producing a pleasure sensation. That's what all material enjoyment is about. So, people make plans, and those plans are all born in the mind. Now, Srila Prabhupada explains, according to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness has all the good qualities of the devatas. All the good qualities that are desirable in a nice person. All those good qualities are to be found only in a person who is fully situated in Krishna consciousness. Whereas a person who is not so situated in Krishna consciousness, he cannot have any good qualifications. What's the reason? Because such a person who is not in Krishna consciousness, he takes refuge in his own mental concoctions. Now, due to some state of mind, if one apparently is behaving very nicely, now the state of mind is highly subject to change. So, one moment a person may be very nice, next moment he may become angry. A little later he may display some envy. Some other time he may be indifferent. Some other time he may act in a cruel manner. Some other time he may feel very much sorry. So, all kinds of ups and downs and all kinds of varieties of behavior and varieties of emotions, and it is simply called riding on the chariot of the mind. Manorathena sato dhavato bahihi. This is a description in the Bhagavatam. Such a person is never steady. A Krishna conscious person is always steady. He is always steady in his character, in his behavior. He has no envy, he has no jealousy, he has no anger, he has no lamentation, he has no greed, he has no lust. He is completely pure. That is Krishna conscious person's first symptom that is being described here. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 56th verse. Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha vita raga bhaya krodhaha stitadhir muniruchyate. The meaning of this verse is one who is not disturbed in spite of the threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, who is free from three things, attachment, fear and anger, is called a sage of steady mind, Stitadir Muni. Srila Prabhupada explains, the word Muni means a person who can agitate his mind in different ways for mental speculation. What is mental speculation? Something that is concocted in the mind. And such a Muni generally does not come to any factual conclusion about anything. So every Muni has his own angle of vision, and in this way, in the true sense of the term Muni, a person who simply speculates, concocts, and has got so many different viewpoints. But a Stitadi Muni, that is described here in this verse, is a person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness always, eternally, always. So such a person does not indulge in any concoction, any speculation, any kind of guesswork, no. And such a person is fully Krishna conscious, and it is evident because he is not disturbed by any miseries that may affect him. He is not disturbed. And any opportunity for enjoyment or pleasure, sense pleasure, he doesn't think that, oh, I have worked very hard for getting some pleasure, so I deserve it. No. Both miseries, if they come, or some pleasure is available, both of them he considers it as the mercy of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord. By the mercy of the Lord, a devotee thinks that any misery that I experience is due to my own past misdeeds, and I deserve to suffer more, but the Lord is kind and therefore He has minimized my suffering. And when a devotee experiences pleasure, he thinks, I don't deserve, but the Lord is very kind to bestow upon me this happiness, so I can nicely do my seva to the Lord. And as regards attachment, fear, anger, a devotee is free from these three, meaning attachment means here accepting things for one's own sense pleasure. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, he doesn't have any attachment because he is not anymore interested in sense pleasures. A devotee's viewpoint is how he can do something for pleasing Krishna. Always he works for pleasing Krishna. He does service for pleasing Krishna. His life is dedicated for giving pleasure to Krishna. This is a devotee's state of existence. So no attachment. and no fear, because a devotee is always very bold and very straightforward in whatever he does, because he is always wanting to serve the Lord without being influenced by any material conditions or his mind, without being influenced by any of those. Therefore, he is always free from fear. He is fearless. Devotee is fearless in all circumstances. And free from anger, because people become angry when their desires are not fulfilled. But a devotee doesn't work for satisfaction of his own desires, no. So therefore, there is no reason for a devotee to become angry. I'll take some questions. Here's a question. Can we see the soul with our human eyes? The answer is, it has been described. The soul is invisible, avyaktoyam. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in an earlier verse, it is described the soul is invisible. What's the reason? The soul is very, very small. It is smaller than the material atom. That is one reason we cannot see the soul. Secondly, the soul is a spiritual particle. It is not a material particle. So, for seeing a material particle, we may use some material instrument, electron microscope. I don't know whether electron microscope you can see. Maybe something is there to see some material particle. But spiritual particle is not possible to be seen by material instruments. No. So, therefore, we cannot see the soul with our human eyes. But does it mean we cannot perceive the soul at all? No, that is not correct. We can perceive the soul. How do we perceive the soul? You know the difference between a living body and a dead body. Living body means the soul is inside. So, the symptom of the soul is consciousness. Life symptoms in a person are due to the presence of the spirit soul inside, even though we cannot see. And dead body, no spirit soul inside. Therefore, dead body. So, no consciousness, no activity, no living symptoms, life symptoms, no. So, that is the way to detect the soul, by presence of consciousness, by presence of living symptoms, like that. Next question. At the time of death, does the soul change the subtle body just like the gross body, or it carries the subtle body to the next life? The Shastras say, normally, generally, a person when death comes, leaves this body and goes to another gross body, carrying the subtle body with him. Yes, the soul carries a subtle body from this gross body to the next gross body. But what happens to the subtle body during liberation? The subtle body and the gross body is left behind by a person who gets liberated. Liberated means free from the gross body and free from the subtle body, and free means one has actually developed one's spiritual form. Right now the spiritual form is there, but it is undeveloped. So, spiritual life means developing the spiritual form which is already there. The spiritual senses have to be activated. It is there. Spiritual senses are there. Spiritual mind is there. Spiritual intelligence is there. Spiritual body is there. We don't use the word body, we use the word form. Spiritual form is there. Everything has to be activated by spiritual practice. Then when it is fully activated and we become fully detached from this body, from the mind, from the material mind, material body, material intelligence, material ego, material attachments, everything will become free. Then we are liberated. Then only our spiritual form, which is our own identity, not separate from us, it is our own actual form. So that is what happens at the time of liberation. Next question, what is the significance of Purushottam month? How does it come only on some years? What are we supposed to do during this month? Okay, Purushottam month is a special month called Adhika Masa, an extra month that is added to the lunar calendar once in about 3 years. Why? Because the lunar month is little less duration than the solar month. If the solar month is on an average 30 days, the lunar month is about 28 and a half days or something like that. So, because the lunar month is shorter than the solar month, over a period of about 3 years, there is a difference, accumulated difference between the lunar calendar and the solar calendar of about a month. So, an extra month is added called Adhika Masa, also called as Purushottam Masa, to the lunar calendar to bring both the lunar and solar calendar in sync. That is called Purushottam Masa. That is why it comes once in 3 years or so. And what are we supposed to do during this month? This month, because it is an extra month, there will be no festivals, there will be no observance of any appearance day, of disappearance day of the Supreme Lord or Acharyas, no festivals, no events like samskaras are not done during this month. It is an Adhik Masa, extra month. So, during this month, we are supposed to exclusively engage in devotional service. And it is said that this month is very, very special month for devotees, because during this month, devotees, they have extra time because they do not have any festivals, any observances. So, therefore, they can completely engage in devotional service exclusively during this month. Next question, what is the difference between Parabrahman and Paramatma and Bhagavan? Parabrahman means the supreme Brahman. We are all Brahman, means we are all spirit soul, individual spirit soul. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the supreme spirit. That is specifically referred to in the Bhagavad Gita and the other Vedic literature as Parabrahman. There is a verse in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. So, all Param, Param, Param. Param Brahma, the Supreme Lord Krishna is the Supreme Brahman. We are all Brahman, but he is the Supreme Brahman. And Paramatma, he is the Supreme Atma. We are all Atma. But the Supreme Lord Krishna is the Paramatma, Supreme Atma or Super Soul. Prabhupada also translates this word Paramatma as Super Soul. So, he is the Supreme Soul. And Bhagavan, Paramatma is the Lord in the heart, the Lord's form in the heart. He is separate from the individual soul, separate from me. I am sitting in this heart as a particle, tiny particle of spirit, soul, and Lord is seated as Super Soul, two different identities, two different personalities, not same, the two different personalities, Atma and Paramatma, Brahman and Parabrahman, like that. There is a distinction, there is definite distinction. And Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Person, full of 6 opulences. Bhaga means opulences. One means one who possesses to the greatest extent. 6 opulences to an unlimited degree. One who possesses, the person who possesses that is called Bhagavan, and that's only one person, God, Krishna. Next question, Krishna can deliver anyone he chooses. he delivered all in Kurukshetra war, even though the soldiers may not be pure bhaktas and may have worldly desires upon death. How to understand this correctly? Now, when Krishna decides to deliver somebody, then there is no question of their qualification. There is no question of their qualification. Now, if somebody wants to get deliverance by qualifying themselves, that's called the gradual path of attaining liberation. What is the gradual path of attaining liberation? One progresses, especially when one gets human form of life, one practices the Vedic injunctions and elevates oneself gradually to higher states of consciousness, and befitting the state of consciousness, one transfers himself to life after life to the higher planets. So, gradually one is elevated to Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is the topmost planet in this material universe, and in Brahmaloka, if one remains till end of Brahma's life, then along with Brahma one is liberated. So, that is the gradual process of liberation, and that is, strictly speaking, the qualification for liberation. But if somebody, even without that qualification, that means having gradually elevated by strictly following all the rules, regulations, the Vedic injunctions, the do's, the don'ts, applicable for a particular person in a particular state of consciousness at a particular level of purification, like that, that is gradual, very, very, very slow. How slow? The scriptures say, Panthastu koti shata vatsara sampragamyo. Koti shata vatsara. Koti is crore, shata is 100, but here it means hundreds. Hundreds of crores of lifetimes, years, one may practice, and still there is no guarantee. One may get ultimate liberation. But when Krishna delivers somebody, then there is no question of Krishna considering qualification. Krishna chooses. Now, whom does Krishna choose to deliver? Krishna delivers his devotees. In rare cases, Krishna delivers even demons. Krishna delivers even materialistic persons. That is Krishna's mercy. Okay? So, when Krishna chose to deliver all those who had assembled in Kurukshetra, that's because Krishna came to reduce the burden of this earth. The earth was overburdened by demoniac people. So, whoever were the demons that Krishna killed before the battle of Kurukshetra, they are all delivered by Krishna. Any demon, anybody who is killed by Krishna, and whom will Krishna kill? Only demons, nobody else. So, Krishna delivers all those whom he kills. So, they are delivered. Not that they are qualified, they are not necessarily qualified. They are definitely not qualified, but Krishna delivers them. And those whom he did not kill, but they were a burden for the earth, he made arrangement for them to assemble in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Whichever party, doesn't matter, Pandava side or Kaurava side. So, Krishna delivered them also. Simply by his glance, by his presence in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna delivered everyone. So, that is Krishna's mercy, that's all. Simply we cannot attribute any other reason for their deliverance than Krishna's mercy. Otherwise, the Vedic scriptures describe how one can get deliverance from material existence. In next question, in verses 2.34, 35 and 36, emphasis is being laid to preserve the fame Arjuna has and to avoid ill fame. Would it be correct to say preservation of worldly fame is important? No. Here, the idea of preserving the fame or maintaining some famous position is not the idea here. The idea is for a Kshatriya who is reputed to be chivalrous, to be having so many nice Kshatriya qualities, for a Kshatriya to refuse to fight in a Dharma Yuddha or go away from the battlefield, that would bring infamy. He will become infamous, and that is unbearable for a Kshatriya. So Krishna is pointing out, you have got a good reputation, but if you lose that reputation, it will be unbearable for you. Better you fight in the battle and don't lose your reputation. In that sense, Krishna is telling him about fame. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.